Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be in Idaho today for their countrywide Fighting Oligarchy tour.
Donald Trump is not an aberration. He is the logical, inevitable conclusion of an American political system dominated by corporate and dark money. We must defeat the system that created him.
If we stand together, we can defeat Trumpism, we can defeat authoritarianism, we can defeat oligarchy, we can create a new nation.
Salena Zito is a nationally syndicated political reporter. She joins me now. Salena, look, these crowds, pretty big. Should Republicans be concerned? Is this message resonating? Can Salena hear me?
Oh, yes, Salena can hear you now.
Yes. All right, try that again. Good morning. We're talking about AOC, Bernie Sanders. These crowds are big. I mean, we can't deny that. Should Republicans, though, be concerned? Is the message resonating enough with voters?
So American politics is all about addition. And when you see these big crowds, there's this assumption that, oh, my gosh, you know, maybe everyone doesn't like President Trump anymore. And I'm I would be cautious of making that assumption. The message and the people that are attending tend to be the same people that showed up in November or sat at home. And so it's not very clear as to whether they're gaining new supporters. And instead, it seems as though they're coming across as preaching to the choir. And while that gives that great impression, right, this grandiose impression, I don't think that they're gaining anyone new, whether they're going to a blue district or a red district. You know, not every place in a red town voted, you know, Republican. A lot of them are Democrats. And so I would just be cautious in trying to portray this as Democrats are as a movement.
It certainly is curious where they're going. You got Utah, Idaho, Montana, pretty conservative states. They're then headed to Bakersfield later on this week. That is a pretty conservative city, albeit in a pretty liberal state. So we'll see. We'll see if this strategy works. We'll see what it means. But I think you're right. We have to remember that these are the people that did not vote for Trump in November. It's not like they suddenly had some major change of heart over the last 4 to 5 months. Speaking of change of heart, ESPN host Stephen A. Smith doubling down on his potential 2028 presidential run. Originally said, there's no way I'm doing this. I make too much money. Now he's saying this.
I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
Salena, forget what he's saying for a moment, because we heard him say that earlier last week. We could repeat that soundbite. It's basically the same. I want to focus on the where he's saying that, because you're now on a Sunday show where all they do is talk about politics. What do you make of that?
Shades of 90s in 2012. He sounds like Donald Trump, who was hoping other people would step up, and eventually Donald Trump does. Whatever President Trump has taught us in American politics is that people are hungry for something new, something vibrant, and something that reawakens their political party and forms a new coalition. And I believe that that is what Smith is hinting at, that whatever the Democrats are doing is wrong. It's not working. They're losing people. They're not gaining people. And that if someone within the Democratic Party doesn't show that fire in his belly and ability to create a new coalition, then he's going to step up and do it. We saw Donald Trump do that successfully twice. And he has remade the Republican Party a party that was hungry for something different and vibrant, and one that included the working class. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Coming off of 4 years where the Democrat administration did not talk to anybody in conservative media, to have a Stephen A. Smith who comes on conservative media all the time. It doesn't matter who's offering the interview. He's doing it. I think that speaks volumes, and I think it's something definitely to watch as we proceed to, I can't believe I'm saying this, 2028. Salena Zito, thanks for waking up. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.